Rosh Hashanah's in the house tonight. All the world is passing through the light. Let's all get written in the book of life. Shana Tova, it's holiday time.
Hello, welcome to the Laws of Rosh Hashanah. For those of you following along, we're on Taf Kuf Pei Hey Dalid, which is 585, Seif 4. And we're talking about the laws of the shofar blowing, the big mitzvah that we do on Rosh Hashanah. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Achar Takei Avlo Shliach Tzibor Kadei Shalei Yizbalvel. The person who blows the shofar should not be the same one who's leading the davening, because we don't want him to get confused about the davening. Vimhu muftach shechozer l'tfilaso. If we're confident that he'll be able to go back to his davening without getting messed up, r'shai litko, then he could blow the shofar also. Says the Ramah, v'davka t'kiyah sha'al seder ha'tfila aser l'shliach tzibur litko. When are we worried that he might mess up? That's only, remember we said there are two groups of shofar blowings. There's the shofar blowing before we daven musaf, and the shofar blowing during musaf. So here he says we're only talking about the shofar blowing that is during musaf, because during musaf he's leading the prayers. If it's before musaf, he's not leading the prayers, so we don't have to worry about him getting messed up. Aval t'kiyah shetoka miyushav, the hainu kodim shemispal musaf mutter, shliach tzibor litkoa. V'im ein shliach tzibor takeya miyushav, roi she'oso hatakeya yiska gam kein al seder habrachos kiyah hamaschel b'mitzvah omrim lo gemor. He says really it's preferable that the one who is blowing the shofar for the first group of shofar blasts should also blow it for the second group of shofar blasts. Why? Because we say that somebody who is starting a mitzvah should finish it. Noagim lehakrois lifnei atakeya seder atakiyos mila b'mila kadei shelo yita v'nachonhu. The Ramah also says it's proper to have somebody, right, read what blast the shofar blower is blowing so he doesn't get messed up. So that's why you always have someone there going tekiah, and then he blows a tekiah. Shvarim, he blows a shvarim, because we don't want the Balo Tekeah to forget where he is or to mess up the bless. Okay, so that was the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. Now let's read the Mishnah Berurah. Aval hefsek lo have dehu chashav tzarich tefila she'elu hatkiyos nikfu al seder habrachos. He says if we were talking about having the chazan who's leading the musaf prayers blow the shofar, he says that it's not considered an interruption because it's considered part of the davening. So that is not an issue why the one davening musaf can't blow the shofar blast. The issue is that he just might get confused and mess up. Vimu muftach. So on that the Mishnah Berurah says, V'meina muftach v'leka achar. But let's say, so we said he's allowed, the shliach tzibur is allowed to blow the shofar blast if we're confident he's the type of person that's not going to mess up. But let's say we're not confident. He's not that type of person, but he's the only one who knows how to blow the shofar. Then what do you do? Right, you have sometimes people go to small towns, they're like the all-in-one rabbi. They lead the davening, they blow the shofar. So what does he do? So if there's no one else to blow, some say you should wait to blow the shofar until after davening. All the more so if you already fulfilled your obligation with the first blast. Some say, and he says that others hold that you should blow it anyway, even if we're not confident that he's not going to mess up, and we should have confidence from Hashem that Hashem will help. Now, actually, all this is not relevant because we all daven from a machzer nowadays. We all have a prayer book. Back in the day, they did a lot of this by heart. So the Mishnah Berurah says, "V'im mispal metoch hasiddur v'machzer." If the chazan is leading the davening through a machzer, l'kuli alma dinei kemuftach. Then he is like a muftach. Then we're confident. So we don't really have nowadays a person that we're not confident can do both things of lead the services and blow the shofar, because nowadays we daven from a machzer. So all of this really isn't so relevant nowadays. Okay. R'shai litkoa afilu yesham acher. We said he can blow. This is going on. Right, if we're confident, we said that he can, the shliach tzibor can go back to the davening, he can blow the shofar. Affiliation, even if someone else, it's not a hefsek. Okay. In fact, when I was a kid, In the shul I went to, the person who led Musaf also blew the shofar, I remember. V'davka, the sham chashinin she's balbo v'lo yuchal lachzor l'tfilaso. Right, we said because we're worried that he's going to mess up and not be able to return to his davening. Omer lo gemar. So we said in general, though, that one who blows the first shofar blast should finish the shofar blast, because we say that someone who starts a mitzvah should finish it. Now, some communities, they actually had a custom to give one set of shofar blast to one person, another set to another person. Oh, l'chalek amasdar, malchus, la'achar, zichronos la'achar. And in some places they would actually divide up the shofar blast within Shmona Esrei to different people. If you have a custom in your community to do that, that's what you should do. Everyone should do like their custom. The Jewish people are holy, and they love mitzvahs. So in the absence of a custom, sounds like you should have one person blowing all the shofar blasts. But if there's a custom in your community, go after the custom. The hakros. So we said that a person should announce what the shofar blasts are. So who should do that? The person who was davening shacharis should read what the blasts are to the tokeh. But in the place where there's a rav in the shul, the rabbi should announce it. And that's usually what happens. The rabbi announces what the shofar blasts are. Gam tkiyas rishona yakar lefanov af agav delo shliach kol kach shita. And even the beginning shofar blasts, you should announce, even though it's not so common that people make a mistake. Right, the first blowings, one of that before Shmona Esrei. There was a time where they couldn't blow the shofar. They couldn't even start. They turned over the shofar, and they ran into it. A verse, and they were, after they said that verse in Tehillim, they were able to blow the shofar. This is brought from the Maril. This is only by the shofar blast where a person is standing. That's the shofar blast during Shmona Esrei. But he says if you can't blow the shofar, you can't even start to blow it after you made the bracha, you should not be reading verses in Tehillim, because that's considered an interruption. So you shouldn't be doing this. This case of where they couldn't blow the shofar, so they said a verse of Tehillim, that was only during the later shofar blast after he made the blessing. He says you shouldn't do this. Now let's say you're starting to blow the shofar, you just made the bracha. Right? Earlier we said that if you are in the middle of the shofar blast, after you make a bracha, then you blow a few shofar blasts and you can't blow anymore, so someone could bring you another shofar, you don't have to make another bracha. So what if, though, you start blowing the shofar, you made the bracha, and you try to blow the shofar, and nothing comes out? You didn't even make any blasts yet. Then what do? It says, so usually what happens is, the person blowing shofar will have another shofar right in front of him. So since that shofar was right in front of him on the table, he had in mind to make a bracha on all the shofars. Okay. So since it was in front of him, he doesn't have to go back and make another bracha. Now it sounds like, though, if it wasn't in front of him, then he would have to make another bracha. Now again, this is only, it sounds like, when he made a bracha and then he didn't make any shofar blasts, because it would be an interruption. But if he already made some shofar blasts, then someone could bring him a shofar from somewhere else, and he does not have to make another bracha. And then, because circumstances like this may arise, the Mishnah Berurah says, the person who's announcing the shofar blast and the person who's blowing the shofar, they should study well the laws about the shofar and the laws about the how to make the blasts and which blasts you need. So sometimes the person announcing the shofar blast can make a mistake, or the person blowing the shofar can make a mistake, but they have to know what to do. Right, under pressure in front of the synagogue, and you make a mistake, you have to know what the law is. So it's very important that the people who are in charge of the shofar learn the laws. So right, if you have to blow it again, you don't have to blow it again, where you have to go back to, all of those things. Okay, let's do Sif Hey, we'll finish the siman. So someone who gets paid to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, or to daven, or to translate things on Shabbos and Yom Tov, he's not going to see blessing from that money that he gets. And the Mishnah Berurah says, Ayin la'el b'simin shin vav sif hey ha-Mishnah Berurah sham. Okay, so that's another topic a whole nother topic which is brought later. But with that, we finish today's Sif and Siman Tav Kuf Pei Hey. God willing, next time we'll start Tav Kuf Pei Vav, the laws of the shofar itself. Wishing everyone a great day.